Today we're going to be talking about the Siege of Constantinople. I'm just putting out this video to make sure everyone has some basic knowledge of the topic before our discussion tomorrow. So we're going to be focusing on three things in particular in this discussion. We're going to be focusing on key historical figures, whether or not this siege and its outcomes, being the fall of the Byzantine Empire in Constantinople, led to the beginning of the Middle Ages, and we're going to be exploring the Byzantine Empire's relationship with the city of Rome. So starting with key historical figures, we have the Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II, who was the son of Murad II, who had led a siege on the city 30 years earlier. Many speculate that this was why Mehmed started the siege of the city, because he felt he had a lot to prove as he was a very young sultan and many of his advisors were still loyal to his father, so he wanted to do something that his father could not. He also used cannons in a modern sense for the first time. Large cannons such as this had not really been used frequently in sieges before this point, and as a result of this, many credit this siege and the Ottoman army in particular with modernizing European warfare in particular, but European technology in a lot of ways in general. Another historical figure is Constantine the 11th, who was the Roman emperor at the time of this siege, or Byzantine emperor. He would have considered himself the Roman emperor, as the Byzantines considered themselves the true descendants of Rome. This would motivate a lot of Constantine's decisions throughout his reign and throughout the siege, as throughout his reign, he was very careful not to aggravate the Ottomans and protect the Roman legacy, but once they did attack, he protected the Roman legacy by fighting to fiercely defend it. Moving on to a third significant historical figure in this siege, we have Giovanni Giustiniani, who was an Italian mercenary from Genoa, which is in modern-day northern Italy. He was sent by the Catholic Church with a small force of men to support the Byzantine Empire. On the one hand, the Catholic Church did send help, but on the other hand, they only sent him. So it is worth considering that when considering the relationship between the Byzantine Empire and Rome. He led the defense of the outer walls, and when he was wounded in the final battle and left, the battle began to end and the defenders began to surrender, because as he was their commander and had led them very bravely throughout the siege, they just had no courage left after he was wounded. So many actually credit him with the most significant role in the battle. And last and sort of least, we have Lucas Notaras and Chandarli Halil Pasha. So these were two advisors who, throughout the siege, both advised peace and compromise in various ways, but unfortunately their advice was not listened to by either ruler. This is why I listed them sort of as least, and they were both executed by Mehmed II after the battle for treason. Chandarli Halil for treason against Mehmed, and Lucas Notaras for treason against Constantine by Mehmed, because Lucas Notaras had refused to give his emperor money in his time of need. So now moving on to some of these bigger questions, and keeping in mind some of the knowledge that you gained from the key historical figures, I invite you to consider these two questions. So, did this siege lead to the end of the Middle Ages and the beginning of the Renaissance in Europe? And what was the Byzantines' relationship with the city of Rome? So, in examining these, here are some of the facts that we can find about these two questions. So, in terms of whether or not this led to the Middle Ages, on the one hand, hundreds and thousands of Italians and Greeks fled the city of Constantinople for mainland Italy after the siege. And many speculate this created the perfect environment for the Renaissance to grow and thrive. And also, the Middle Ages began with the fall of the Western Roman Empire. So many historians say it would make sense for it to end with the fall of the Eastern Roman Empire. Um, some other historians say that it makes more sense for the Middle Ages to have ended when Columbus arrived in the Americas or when Martin Luther wrote his 99 Theses. Um, but either way, one thing that cannot be denied is that this event had tremendous impact on Europe in that Renaissance medieval era. As for the relationship with Rome, the Byzantines without doubt considered themselves the true successors to the Roman Empire, but it's impossible to say who that really was, as the papacy, for example, considered themselves the same. And this would be why relations between the two was usually so hostile, that and the religion difference. But on the other hand, the papacy did send some resources in the form of 4 ships and also Giovanni Giustiniani to the Byzantine Empire during the siege. So their intentions during this era were more unclear than just completely outright hostile. So I invite you to consider all of these facts before the discussion tomorrow, and I look forward to hearing your opinions. Thank you.